Our first reading from the prophet Habakkuk is a beautiful and honest confession of the prophet's prayer life. Habakkuk sees a lot of violence and destruction going on around him, and he prays to God for relief and peace, but receives nothing from the Lord. When the Lord does answer him, he tells him to be patient, to write down the visions he does receive, and have faith in God. Two of those are very hard to do, even in ancient Israel. But how often do we fall into this same rut? Someone in our family passes away, and we feel God is absent. Someone we know or we ourselves are diagnosed with a disease, and we feel God is absent. We have been diligent in our daily prayer life, putting aside time to communicate with the Lord, and we feel that it's a one-sided conversation. Or we come to Mass each and every Sunday and don't feel like God is listening to us or even cares. These are real feelings and emotions, and we should not take them lightly. These are similar emotions that Habakkuk is referring to. First and foremost, if you don't have faith, you're going to be lost and frustrated. Faith in Christ is the foundation of the Christian life, and from which everything flows. If you don't believe that God exists and that God is love, then see me after Mass and we can talk about that. And then we'll get you into our new Making Disciples Adult Faith Formation group that's meeting this Wednesday. But it's from our faith in Christ that we are able to discern with God and become vehicles of God's love. Now, once we have faith, then we are charged with growing in our faith and building on that foundation, who is Jesus Christ. So, when we run into dryness or problems with our prayer life, like Habakkuk did, we can follow God's instructions. Be patient. Write down what we do receive in prayer and have faith in God. These are three practical steps that many spiritual masters and saints have discussed throughout our 2,000-year tradition in our beloved church. A spiritual master that I go to quite often is St. Ignatius of Loyola. He almost exclusively quotes God in his rules for discernment. Ignatius writes that spiritual dryness, or as he would say, spiritual desolation, when it does come, and we need to prepare for it. Every time that we come to pray, we're not going to be on cloud nine, rocking out with Mary and our favorite saints, which Ignatius would call spiritual consolation. As I mentioned before, sometimes prayer feels one-sided, boring, or if we are going through a rough time in our life because of illness or loss, prayer seems pointless. But our God is a faithful God who never leaves us. If we have faith in God, who is love, we will know that love is always present. God is always present. A way for us to remember that God is always present is to keep a prayer journal that we can refer to in times of spiritual dryness or spiritual crisis. Sound familiar? That's because God told Habakkuk the same thing. We just heard from the prophet, the rash one has no integrity, but the just one, because of his faith, shall live. When we are patient with God, keep a record of our prayer, and keep the faith, we will be able to continually live within God's presence and grace. My brothers and sisters, if we want to increase our faith, we can't just go to Jesus like the apostles in our gospel and say, "Increase my faith." We need to pray and enter into a relationship with Jesus. Think of it in parallel with social media, for those here who use social media. If not, bear with me for the example, and then ask your grandchildren. But you can have all of the Facebook and Snapchat friends and the Twitter and Instagram followers that you want. But if your relationship with these people is only through social media, you will never have a real, genuine, and sincere relationship with them. Sure, you'll know the food that they like to eat, their political opinions, who's in their extended family, and even more personal information like their most recent bowel movement, which I've seen way too much of on the internet. But you will never know their personality, the quirks that we all have that make us individuals. You will certainly never know their own heart. And it's the same with our faith and our relationship with Jesus. If all we know about Jesus is what we read on his Facebook equivalent, also known as the Bible, and what we see in our beautiful stained glass windows and in art and architecture around the world, we will never really know Jesus. He knows us, and he loves us immensely. But we need to know him so that when trouble comes, we can have faith that he will come to us. We can be patient in waiting for him. And a way to help us remember that is to write it down in some kind of prayer or spiritual journal. Start that today. You don't need a nice journal from Target or Walgreens. Use a napkin or even your phone. Don't wait for next Sunday or tomorrow. Start right now. Lastly, know that myself and the other priests here in the parish are here to walk with you in the spiritual life. Father Mike and I are not here just to celebrate Mass alone. We're here to be your spiritual guides and to walk with you on your journey of faith. If you ever want to talk or have a question, please ask us after Mass, email or call us, or just stop by the rectory. We'll be happy to help you, and we're here to help all of us together become saints. And it's not because we're perfect. Believe you me, I'm the biggest sinner in the room today. But we do have the resources and the sacraments available to help everyone. And so let's start today as Habakkuk did, by having faith in God, being patient with God, and writing down all of the good things that does come in prayer, so that when we have that spiritual dryness, we can go back to that and remember there's good things. This is a work in the spiritual life, and it's a way that we'll all become saints. And that's the goal, sainthood. So let's start becoming saints today.